ran up to the giant glass window. I started pounding on the window like in a romantic comedy. I was like, Drew Barrymore's character, come back. She didn't come back. I missed my flight. I got on the next one. They could get me on. It was a stopover in Texas. Feel about Texas. And I get to Los Angeles late that night. I'd missed my show. I'd never missed one of my shows before, and I'm so angry. And Jenny's calling me, but I'm not picking up the phone because I'm blaming this entire day on her. I get back to my friend Andy's house, and I say, Andy, this relationship is messing up my entire life. And Andy goes, you're right. I go, I know. I'm right. He goes, yeah, you're right. I go, I know. I'm right. I got to tell her about this in the morning. And I drive out of Andy's small road, and I'm T-boned. It's the culinary way of describing it. In 1.5 seconds, I'm spun around. I think I'm dead. No, wait, I'm paralyzed. And then I hear nothing. Then I hear the other car skid out and drive away. "20 minutes later, I'm sitting on the curb. At this point, the police have arrived, as well as my friend Andy, and that's when I start crying. You know how when you drop a baby on the ground, it doesn't start crying right away because it doesn't understand the concept of dropping a baby on the ground until it sees your face. And then it's like, oh, I guess I should be doing something that matches that. I'm crying because I'm looking at my totaled car in front of me and realizing that in that moment I might have ceased to exist. Like I said earlier, I don't really believe in anything, so in my mind that would have been the end of all things I'd experienced in my life. Every kiss or failed kiss or scrambler ride would have come to a conclusion. And the officer comes over and he says, what happened? And I said, I got hit by this car, and then I heard nothing, and then I heard the other car skid out and drive away. The officer points over to the light. The other car has made a right turn at the light and veered into this very skinny tree. I can't help but think, that's karma. That's a hit and run and hit. And then the officer puts this form in my face and he goes, sign this. And I said, well, what does it mean? He goes, it means you're okay and that we can leave. I was really shaken up. I was like, I don't know if I'm okay. And he goes, just sign it. Which is a very unattractive quality when someone just repeats a command that you've just said no to, and it's unattractive but very effective, you know. I signed it. And Andy takes me to the hospital just as a precaution, but we have to wait 2 hours because the other driver had beat us there. Eventually, we're with the doctor, and Andy says to him, he goes, well, was the other guy drunk? And the doctor says, well, I can't answer that. And Andy says, was he? He uses the technique we had learned earlier. And it works, you know. The doctor says, well, he's heading to jail now. And Andy and I flash each other a look like the Hardy Boys, like case closed. A few hours later, we're back at Andy's house. It's probably around 3:30 in the morning, and I have one of these epiphanies people sometimes have when they have near-death experiences. I say, I need to call Jenny and tell her that we need to get married. And Andy says, Mike, sleep on it. And I said, no, this makes perfect sense. And I pick up my phone, I dial her number, and he puts his hand over the phone, and he says, Mike, sleep on it. He saves me. The next morning, I fly back to New York, and a few weeks later, I get a call from my rental car agency explaining that the accident report had come back on the accident that I just described, and it had found me at fault, and that I owed, and I'm not making this up, $12,000 for the repairs on the other driver's Mercedes SUV. And I was like, well, this can't be happening. I explained to the woman, I think it's a misunderstanding. The other guy was clearly drunk. It was definitely not my fault. And she said, I'm really sorry, but unless they change the accident report, you owe this money. So I requested the accident report, and I'm going to show you the actual accident report tonight. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things before, but it's a little bit like homework for cops. And Officer Timpson, not so good with the homework. He consistently mixes up passenger 1 and passenger 2, vehicle 1 and vehicle 2, at one point so badly that he says, P1, that's me, started to go. But all of a sudden, V1, that's me also, came at a high rate of speed, crashing into him. Now, I'm pretty self-destructive as a person, but I would never crash into my own car with my own car, nor would I understand how you could do that. This part is even crazier. The other driver's statement at the scene of the accident was, I was on Venice going, I'm not too sure. I was going away from the beach. I was driving. I don't know what happened. Did I hurt anyone? I don't know where I was going, but I came from home. I had a sip of beer, which is really everyone's favorite quantity of beer. Just the one sip, right? That's what they serve these days at the home/beach/pub. So all of us in mind, the officer makes one key mistake. He checks the box that finds me at fault. So I'm like, I need to get Officer Timpson on the phone so we can clear up this misunderstanding. The problem is he keeps ducking my calls. And I know, because I'm calling 2 or 3 times a day, leaving messages, calling departments next to his department so he knows I'm trying to reach him. And finally, after a month of this, I get him on the phone and I'm so relieved. And I explain this misunderstanding and he listens to me. And he says, do the right thing and pay for the guy's car. I know, and that's what I said. I go, aren't you listening to any of this? I go, this guy was clearly drunk. I mean, he nearly killed me inches from where he hit, and I would be dead right now, and he wants me to pay for his car. Don't you see how crazy that is? Just as one human being to another, and he says, do the right thing and pay for the guy's car. And he hangs up the phone. And at this point, this stops being about money. And this is about stopping a man who has no regard for people or the law. This is Chinatown. So I start printing up Google Maps of the scene of the accident and California state driving law. I'm on the phone with lawyers and private investigators. There's only one lawyer who would consider the case, and he was an accident lawyer. And he said, did you have any loss of income from the accident? And I said, no. And he says, did you have any loss of income from the accident? And I said, no. This isn't about money. And he doesn't take the case. And this is when I start going completely mad. I'm up till about 4 or 5 a.m. every night just surfing the web. I get a subscription to a site called netdetective.com, which is a great site for vigilantes who have $29.95. So now I know this guy's name, I know where he lives, I know what he does for a living, and in my mind, it becomes like a trailer for a revenge thriller. Like Jim Bosworth thought he was gonna get away with this, but Jim Bosworth had another thing coming. Like Birbiglia. I was like, I'm gonna track down Jim Bosworth. I'm gonna sue Jim Bosworth, and I'm gonna sue the entire Los Angeles Police Department. At this point, people stopped talking to me entirely. My friends would call me like, hey, what's going on? I'd be like, I'll tell you what's going on. I would tell them this whole story, and they'd be like, you should get a lawyer. I'd be like, this is way past lawyers. A lawyer wouldn't even touch this. Because he wouldn't. The only person who would talk to me at this point was Jenny. One night we were out to dinner at a restaurant, and she's talking to me, but I'm not listening because I'm writing down ideas I have for the case. On my napkin, I've drawn out a diagram of the intersection and the angles the cars were coming from and going to, and the lanes that we were in, the laws the other driver broke, and the phone numbers I'm going to call that week. And I'm so angry, I'm writing over my own handwriting to the point where I'm ripping through the napkin. And Jenny looks at me and she says, what are you doing? And I said, well, this is my case. And she says, well, why don't you work on that in the morning? And I said, well, which part of this napkin don't you understand? Jenny says, Mike, you're right, but it's only hurting you, and I'm just so glad that you're alive, and I think that we should focus on that. She only has to say it once, and I give up the case, and I pay for this guy's car. July 7th, 2007, Jenny and I went to City Hall and got married. I still didn't believe in the idea of marriage, and I still don't. But I believe in her, and I've given up on the idea of being right.